Hello and happy holidays. The holiday season is upon us, and so I thought I would do just a little informal presentation on Scientology holidays and what the holiday season means for Scientology and Scientologists. The word holiday literally means holy day, and of course has a tradition of being a religious day of observance and taking a break from work or other duties or other responsibilities people have and observing or praying or anything like that. But of course, holidays have grown to mean all kinds of observances other than just religious meanings or significances. And in fact, of course, in the modern times, we have holidays for all sorts of things that have nothing to do with religion, including secular holidays and even goofy holidays. Arbor Day and Labor Day, for example, or Earth Day are now nationally recognized holidays. And of course, there's things like April Fool's Day or National Speak Like a Pirate Day. So holidays don't have to now be recognized as religious holidays or holy days, but that's the tradition that they come from. And of course, Scientology has its own set of significant days in its history that it has set aside for special days, but holidays are celebrated in Scientology a little differently than in the rest of the world, and that's what I thought I might talk about a little bit. Is not just first we'll talk about what the days are, and then we'll talk about how those are celebrated or observed by staff and Sea Org members, and then we'll talk about it for the public. So, and I can tell you, of course, that in Scientology, none of these days mean any rest or relaxation or contemplation for Scientology staff members and for Sea Org members. They work on holidays. There are no days off and no real days of appreciation or observation for Scientology. It is, after all, a destructive cult whose main purpose is to make money. And so the holidays in Scientology are mainly focused around fundraising and making money. So let's take a look at the specific special days of the year that Scientology has. L. Ron Hubbard's birthday is March 13th, and that is usually signified by a special event that mainly focuses on L. Ron Hubbard as a person. And there's a biographer who was hired, I think it was back in the early 1990s, his name is Dan Sherman, and he was announced as being the man who was going to write this biography. Well, there's no biography anywhere. I've never seen a piece of work, a piece of literature take so long for somebody to write. I was going to say, it's a piece of fiction. So they're still working it over. But anyway, this biographer's main job now is to go out on a stage on March 13th at these international events that Scientology holds and weave stories about Hubbard and his life. And that's what March 13th mainly consists of. And they have a whole series of magazines and whatnot that cover various aspects of Hubbard's life, and there's photos and quotes from him and that whatnot. For example, there's Ron the Mariner and Ron the Writer and Ron the Botanist and Ron the Musician, and they claim that he was fully professional in like 28 different fields. And anyway, so the March 13th event tends to focus on that kind of nonsense, and they spew all kinds of just amazing, very inflated, very exaggerated stories about his life. For example, how he single-handedly held off the invasion of the Japanese forces into Australia in World War II, or how he was involved in organizing all of the atomic scientists in the 1940s and 50s to somehow protest the fact that they had made these hydrogen bombs, and now they were going to do something to protest this to the government, and Hubbard somehow came in and calmed things down and got them organized somehow. Just these pure fantasy. I mean, really, there's nothing. So anyway, that's the March 13th event. The next significant holiday for Scientology is May 9th, which is the anniversary of the publication of Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health, published in 1950. And so Dianetics has its own Dianetics Day, and they have an event. All of these holidays, they have an event. And they talk about Dianetics. And that used to be a very big deal. The May 9th event was a very big deal, and really pumped up Dianetics and whatnot. And over the recent years, it's tended to kind of fade in importance. It's really not a super important event anymore, but it was for a very long time. The next anniversary event is the June 6th, which is the anniversary of the maiden voyage of the Freewinds. And the Freewinds is, of course, the ship that Scientology owns now. The Sea Org is called the Sea Org because it started on the sea. And Hubbard actually bought, some boats and had Scientologists come out and be on those boats, and he had them join this group called the Sea Organization. And they are totally dedicated 24/7. It's the core group of Scientology. So there's this tradition in the Sea Organization of, having started on the sea. Well, all those boats were sort of tanked by the mid-70s. There really wasn't much need for it because everything moved back to land. And so in 1985, they purchased the Freewinds, the ship that they end up calling the Freewinds. It's a very small passenger cruise, vessel. And they renovated it, and in 1987, June 6, 1987, they had the maiden voyage of the Freewinds, and the purpose of the Freewinds is to deliver the very highest OT level in all of Scientology, just the one, OT level 8, and it's called Truth Revealed, and that level is gone through a couple revisions, as I understand it, and we won't get into all of that here, just that is the significance of this day, is that it's the maiden voyage of the Freewinds was on June 6th, and they have a week of events. Actually, it's an entire week. They'll usually have 3 to 4 nights of events over the maiden voyage week, and how that tends to be celebrated is a bunch of OTs, a bunch of high-level Scientologists will go to the Freewinds and be on the ship for that week. And chairman of the board will go out, to the Freewinds, and he'll give a presentation to all the people there, and then they'll, broadcast those events. So they usually cover various subjects from night to night. They'll have a night that's dedicated to the Freewinds itself and all of the PR work and whatnot that the Freewinds does to try to give Scientology a good name in the ABC islands where the Freewinds sails. What is that, Aruba, Curacao, and Barbados, I think, is the ABC islands, if I have that right. And so the Freewinds does a lot of PR work down there to try to give itself a good name and give Scientology a good name, and they talk about that. And then there will be another night where they'll have some release or something, some new thing that chairman of the board is giving out to Scientologists. Rather, I should say that he's selling to Scientologists. And then there will be an IAS night, an International Association of Scientologists night, which is dedicated solely to fundraising for the membership trust of Scientology, which is the International Association of Scientologists. So that's the maiden voyage events, and that's the holiday there, and that's June 6th. Then there is Sea Org Day. Now this is only for Sea Org members. They have I think it's August 12th, and that day is basically the day the Sea Org was founded. I think it was back in 1967. And so this day is not for public or for public Scientologists or staff Scientologists. It's just for Sea Org members. And I joined the Sea Org in 1995, and when I joined, the Sea Org Day was a full day off. There's a Sea Org ceremony. Let's say on a weekend. It'll usually be held on the weekend of the week that this falls in. So Saturday night there would be a Sea Org ceremony, and that's where promotions are done and people move up in rank and that sort of thing. And it's all very formal. Everybody comes in their uniforms, and it's kind of this big ceremony. And then the next day was a big celebration, and everybody would have off that day. And we'd go to a park or go to the beach, and there'd be barbecue and all this fun stuff. And for the first couple of years I was in the Sea Org, it was actually kind of cool. But then, things started getting tighter and harsher in the Sea Org. I think it was by 1998, the Sea Org Day ceremony still occurred on Saturday night, but then it was only a half day off for Sea Org Day on Sunday. And I think, by the time I left, it was down to, maybe a half day or, a few hours, just a few hours in celebration, right? Because, the Sea Org has just gotten more and more harsh over the years because David Miscavige is, kind of a dick, and that's how he runs things. So, so that's what Sea Org Day degenerated down to, and it was a point of irritation and annoyance for all of us in the Sea Org because we really looked forward to having that day off, and people would drink, and there'd be volleyball, and there'd be all kinds of fun stuff. It was actually a cool day, and then it just got taken away from us, like anything else in the Sea Org that was fun or pleasant or something to do that would actually give everybody a good time. No, can't have that. That's not acceptable, and so that was taken away. So anyway, that's sort of a holiday in the Sea Org. In fact, it's kind of the only holiday in the Sea Org. Then you have Auditors Day, and that was the second Sunday in September. Don't know what the tradition was of that specifically, just something Hubbard, I think, named as a holiday. And it used to be, when I first got in Scientology in 1985, that was a big deal. Auditors Day was a big deal. There was an international event. The international executives and chairman of the board would come out on stage, and that was the day that there would be big technical releases. In other words, big releases of actual Scientology courses or training materials or auditing materials, things that people would actually use in Scientology. For example, I think it was 1987, Auditors Day 1987, when the first huge upgrade and revision to all of the materials of Scientology was done. And in fact, if you hearken back to 87, like in the training area of Scientology, all of Hubbard's lectures were on reel-to-reel cassette, tapes. You'd have to load them onto these big tape decks and listen to them in the course room, literally stringing the reel-to-reel tapes. And so in 1987, those lectures came out on cassettes. Woohoo! Right? Cassettes had, only been around for 10 years. So that was a big deal. And all the course packs that people use on the courses came out now in 3-ring binders, whereas before they were just, clipped issues that were, randomly jumbled together, and you'd buy these course packs, and now there were these new flashy, fancy course packs, right? So that was a real big deal in 1987. And I think it was Auditors Day in 1991 when there was a huge release of the Key to Life course and the Life Orientation course, which were, really big courses. I mean, big, took months to get through them. So Auditors Day had a tradition of being a big release event. Well, now, over the years, Auditors Day has fallen into utter insignificance. And now I don't remember exactly when it was. I think it was 1997 or 8 or maybe about 1999 that Auditors Day stopped being an international event where they held, big gathering with the international executives coming out on stages and whatnot. They just canceled all that and just made it a local event. And so each church would put on their own Auditors Day event and acknowledge, the local top producing auditors and that sort of thing. And I probably had something to do with the fact that, Miscavige didn't have a whole lot of new things to release. So Auditors Day sort of, went by the wayside, really, and it's really not, it's kind of a non-event these days. All right, and the next big event in Scientology, in fact, the biggest event and holiday in Scientology these days, is the anniversary of the International Association of Scientologists. This is on October 7th. And this event is 100% David Miscavige's baby, because the IAS is 100% David Miscavige's baby. It's his invention. L. Ron Hubbard didn't have anything to do with creating the IAS or what has happened with the IAS since it was created. It was basically made out as a war chest type membership group in order to get Scientology through the 1980s when it had mounting huge legal bills. And David Miscavige was finding himself at the receiving end of investigation by the FBI and the IRS. And that made him really nervous. And so they needed money, and they needed money fast. So they set up the IAS in 1984. Now, what's happened since then is, of course, they've amassed literally billions of dollars in assets and reserves. And so this money is there's just so much money now, you can't even contemplate it. But the IAS continues its fundraising efforts, constantly telling Scientologists that there's some new threat to Scientology or to the world at large, and they need to increase their status as members in the IAS, and or just give money, just straight up give money to it. And there's no exchange of any kind for that. So on October 7th, they have this event, which is one of their holidays. And it's the biggest, most glitzy, event that they hold. They've been doing it in England for years. I think they're going to move it to Florida now, or they've moved it to happening in Clearwater now. And this is, Tom Cruise comes, a lot of celebrities come, and this is the event where they give out the Freedom Medal, the IAS Freedom Medal, to 2 or 3 lucky Scientologists who've worked really hard to forward, and advance the purpose of the IAS, and it's a big glitzy affair, and it's really a to-do, and there's tuxedos and ball gowns and lots of fanciness and good food and whatnot. But all of it is designed to present this big glitzy affair and have it all be very highbrow and super high class to appeal to the whales, the people in Scientology who have a lot of money. Because, you got to keep in mind that Scientology is all about money. And so this event is where they really pump up the whales, the people, these people with money. And this is where they present them with, not on stage during the main event, but around that, around the time of that, they will bring in these people who have donated all this money, and they present them with these gaudy, huge, gigantic trophies and awards to commemorate their donations. And, let's say you have Bob Duggan, for example, and he donates, $100 million or something, some ridiculous figure. And so he's given this trophy that is literally this tall, and it's called the Diamond Invictus Trophy. And so he's given this thing by chairman of the board personally, and everybody oohs and ahs, and that all goes on, behind the scenes. And it's a big, huge one-upmanship amongst all the Scientology rich people as to who can give more money to get a bigger award, to have more status. It's really ridiculous, but it's a big deal with these people. And so that goes on. And that has become the most important event of the year, the most important holiday of the year in Scientology. There is also a New Year's holiday, a New Year's event, where they ring in the new year, and that also tends to be a fairly glitzy affair, but nothing like the IAS. And that usually is when Miscavige would come to LA, and they would usually hold that event at the Shrine Auditorium, and he would live talk to all the Los Angeles people, because usually he does most of his talking out in Clearwater or in England. So those are the holidays of Scientology. And as a staff member and then as a Sea Org member, what those holidays meant was a lot more stress and work, because in order to put on a big international event like this that you're going to record and then send out to all the churches around the world, you have to build a stage, you have to get everybody to come, and so much stress was put on getting as many people to these events as possible, because all of these events are fundraising activities, every one of them. They would have some new release, sometimes, like a new book or a pamphlet or a video or a DVD or, some new course or something like that. And we would always, look with anticipation to see what kind of new materials or new course or something was going to come out. But then all the stress was on selling it to all the people who came to the event, and you had to do it on the night of the event. And the day of the holiday, right? So holidays in Scientology became very, very stressful because it was all about packing in as many people as we could possibly get to come and then selling them these things under very high pressure sales tactics. We were literally indoctrinated to walk up to people, maybe with a booklet or a DVD or whatever the release was in a bag, and hand it to them and just hold out our hand. It was cash or credit, right? This was the drill that we were drilled on, right? You wouldn't even try to engage in salesmanship. It was just cash or credit, right? I mean, it was so blatant. I don't know how I didn't see these things when I was in. But anyway, yeah, it was all about making lots and lots of money. And we had these intense sales targets where, let's say we were going to sell at the Shrine Auditorium, and we had, the Shrine holds 4,200 people, 4,250, something like that. And yet we were always pushed to get 10,000 people to it. And so we were given a sales quota of 10,000 units. So you've only got 4,250 people there. So you want to double up on the sales, triple up on the sales, buy it for your friend, buy it for your mother, and then spend the evening calling people after everybody's left. All the staff are there on the phones trying to reach people who didn't come to the event to sell them the release, right? So that we can make our target. And this went on and on, every event, every year. So those tended to be the holidays. Now, they also have regular holidays too, right? I mean, Scientologists come from, before they get into Scientology, they come from all sorts of denominations and earlier religious practices, right? And they'll tend to carry those forward even if the religious basis of their celebration no longer really applies to them, right? Scientologists do not celebrate the birth of Christ. They could care less about Christ, and in fact, most of them think that Christ is just some mental, nonsense that was installed in people's heads thousands of years ago, and that Christ never even existed. So, but they don't have a problem celebrating Christmas, right? Or Easter is just, about jelly beans and Easter eggs and stuff, right? They'll do Easter, but it's not like there's any time off for any of these holidays, right? And it's sort of like the most base material celebration of these days is what Scientologists do, right? Growing up in a Scientology household, and I had Christmas every year, of course, and Santa Claus and all that, but it never was related back to Christ or the tradition of Christmas or even the earlier pagan traditions of Christmas and solstice and all of that, which is where Christmas really comes from. All of that didn't matter either. It was just a day to buy stuff and give it to people, right? So that's kind of what regular, normal holidays in Scientology are like. And so for the public Scientologist, all of these events, the special Scientology holidays, are stressful for them. And they really don't like them very much because what it means is that they get called incessantly to go to these celebration events. And then they know when they get in there that they're going to be at the receiving end of extremely hard sell, high pressure sales tactics in order to get them to buy not just one of whatever it is that's being sold, but as many as they're willing to fork over money for, right? And the IAS event is the worst because there is no tangible thing being sold. It's just status. And that, that is very open-ended. So people will be, just raked over the coals all night long to give over as much money as they can possibly afford to give over. And, the sales quota for the staff for that night is, like $1 million. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of money that is pressure that's put on the staff, and that pressure is passed on to the public. And so, you can have public going to these events, and they'll be up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, being hammered on to fork over their money. Well, they don't like that. And so, this is one of the reasons why Scientology is shrinking, is because this high pressure sales tactics that go on 5 or 6 times a year at each of these events. So that's Scientology Holidays. And, it kind of makes sense when you look at what Scientology really is, which is it's a money-making scam. It's designed to make money. That is its first priority before anything else. Any help that Scientology gives or benefit it provides to people is incidental to it collecting money from people. So I hope that this was interesting. It's a little informal, a lot less informal than I usually do in my informational videos, but it's the holiday season, so I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because I've got some holiday celebrating for real to do now, and now that I'm no longer involved in Scientology. But I wanted to put something out there that I thought might be useful and informative to people. So I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, or have had a wonderful Hanukkah, and have a very wonderful holiday season. I wish you guys all the best. And of course, I'm having a brilliant time. And lots of good news coming in the near future with my channel and whatnot. So keep your eyes and ears open on that, as that will roll out very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.